Lost Zone Charizard is one of the best decks right now. It just won one of Europe's biggest ever regionals and has been consistently doing well. So I got one of the best players in the world to share his knowledge about Sableye Charizard. He's been playing only Lost Zone decks for over a year and is currently the 3rd ranked player in the entire world. We're going to be talking about the different deck lists for the deck, then talking through how to play the top 12 matchups in the format. Here's how you play Lost Zone Charizard. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the list. So, Brennan, why do you think playing Roaring Moon is worth it in Sablezard right now?
Okay,
Or not?
so Roaring Moon is basically good against any of the fringe decks, I would say, like Snorlax, Entei, Valiant, any Valiant deck for that matter, and Urshifu, as well as, of course, against Mew. It's like kind of needed compared to like the normal Sablezard, especially DTE Mew if they play like Turo. I don't think you can basically win as DTE Zard, unless you play, of course, Spiritomb, which is, I mean, you would need to play Spiritomb and in the deck. So Roaring Moon is what I said is it's really good against it's your main attacker against Snorlax. The main way you can win against both Valiant and Urshifu is you need to hit it as early as possible. And otherwise I don't think you can win those matchups. And I like playing with Gate. Gate is like such a good card. You can attach 2 energy to Comfy to just be able to retreat after Iono. You can basically prepare for Iono with the Gates, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, so the main thing you lose is not running TM Devo. Do you think that's a big deal, or would you run TM Devo at all? Would you consider it, or what do you think about TM Devo right now?
Honestly, I haven't like tried it in the Moon version, but when I tested for LAIC with TM Devo and normal Sablezard, I felt like it still wasn't enough against decks like Charizard, especially Evozard. If they play Turo, they can like you hit with the Gram and then they Turo, and they're still like it takes so many turns for you to like destroy their board with the TM Devo that the TM Devo isn't enough. And it was also especially hard to like find it at the right time. So I guess if you play TM Devo, you need to play 2, which is why you don't have the space for that in this list. That's for sure. And also Roaring Moon is like against Charizard, it's your TM Devo, right? It's a way to KO the big Zards.
That makes a lot of sense. A few things I also had was the other list. So we can look at the other list. There's the main differences between like the other normal Sablezards list and the list that you're running at the moment. Is they're not running boss. Obviously the sort of Raihan Mirage Gate is like a different answer to Iron Hands, I think is like one of the more interesting changes, but also, yeah, no boss in this list versus running boss in your list. Do you think the Roaring Moon kind of forces you to run boss, or is it kind of just a different choice running boss overall?
Boss is just nice in the end game usually. I think you need 3 like gust options, because you're always gonna probably Lost Zone one, and it's really good late game with Zard, right? If you haven't used your Zard yet, it's not in the discard pile. You can use it and basically KO any 2-pricer on their board. Which I know is still the case for like the regular Zard, but it's also useful early game. You can target down at Jirachi, and if they don't play like many return like recovery cards, that can be very important.
Like a Zod, for example, yeah.
And also like if you use Roaring Moon, and sometimes it can just survive if you have it early against like Valiant, Urshifu. It's really good against Snorlax as well. Again, those 3 decks. That's why I play Moon. If it survives and you can use it again and you can choose your target with boss, that's like incredibly powerful. And also I have Sealstone, of course, so I can basically search for it. I have one more out to it maybe sometimes.
And another thing, you haven't been running Sealstone for a while, but you did this weekend. I have your most recent list on screen.
Yeah.
What's up with Sealstone? Like it? Not liking it?
I like it, yeah. So with this list, you almost always want to go second blind.
I was gonna ask you that, yeah. Okay.
That's gonna like be another out for chorus. Or like, yeah, it's just if you, for example, it's like a random tool for Town Store as well, but that's not really important. Like, it's just another out for an early Iron Hands. Like you can search your choruses early, which is like sometimes if you don't have the chorus early, you just lose the game. Yeah, I mean, and pitch it to some fringe uses against like the mirror and just bench it, and they can't they like escape rope and they cram hit it and you like shuffle back in. But That's not really why you play it. It's mainly just for the seal stone, and like you don't want to bench a V that like you can't get away, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that's why it's Pidgeot, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pidgeot makes a ton of sense when you're running Seal Stone. And then the last question I have is Vacuum. The other list doesn't even run Gate and runs 2 Vacuum, the winning list from this last weekend. Well, runs 1 Gate, but you're running heavy Gate. Do you think 1 Vacuum's enough?
Actually, that's one of the things I've been thinking about, playing a second Vacuum. I haven't faced much Miraidon at all in like the latest tournaments, even though it was like a lot of the meta, right?
Yeah.
I only faced 1 in Gdansk and actually 0 in Stuttgart. So I haven't been punished for not playing the second Vacuum, I think. But the second Vacuum would be really nice against Miraidon to respond against their Iron Hands with Bravery Charm, or just to get gates off earlier, right? Because that's the main advantage of playing the 2 Vacuum, to get your gates off earlier, and not there's no need to have like 3 Comfeys turn 1 and then Chorus, another 2 Comfeys to just get a turn 2. You can use the Vacuum for that. I don't know what to cut though. Like the list is pretty tight.
Well, what would be your most cuttable card in a list like this?
Maybe the 1 Poke Gear, but that's just like consistency, right? So yeah. I don't really like cutting consistency.
Yeah, I can understand why you're struggling. The Jet would be my thought. How do you like the Jet? Jet's good?
Jet is like this, basically a 4th switch, like the 4th Scapegoat / switch, right?
8th switch, yeah.
It can honestly just be a switch. There's no... it hasn't really been better than Switch, I think. But I kind of like the one. Sometimes you just attach to the bench and like get a free Comfey out of it, or like you can use the turn 1 and get like 3 Comfeys just using Jet. There's no real disadvantage as well, so
yeah, fair.
I think I just like the one.
All right. Yeah. And then the stadium line, happy with the stadium line. Two Beach Cold, 1 Artisan seems a little bit weird to me at first. What do you think about that?
So of course you want your Comfeys as early as possible, so the 1 Artisan makes sense, I think. And even though you play Gate, it's still really nice to have the Beach Court for like an early Zard or an early Moon, right? You have the gates which you can use to like attach to your Comfeys, but with the Beach Court, you can just attach to your Moon instead and like gate once. And use the Beach Court to retreat instead. It's just, yeah, sometimes you need the extra energy, right, or switch out. Because you only play like the 1 Jet and like only like 7 switch outs, which isn't that much. And you want 3 stadiums, that's for sure. Like for the Moon, it's important in
that makes a lot of sense.
A lot of matchups. So Beach Courts fits in the most, I would say. But I'm open to trying like other stadiums, maybe 2 Art Zone, or maybe Town Star would make sense, but that would help the opponent a lot as well.
Interesting. I think that's all I have for the lists overall. I think it's time we get into the matchup. So the first matchup we have is Charizard EX. So the first question I'm going to ask you for every single matchup is, what are you opting first or second in this one? Against Pidgeot, Evo, talk about both of them.
I want to opt second in this one. Of course, they usually want to go second as well to get Arven out, or use Arven. So I want to go second, hit the turn 1 Cram on like either one of their Charmanders, or preferably Pidgey, because you want to go for Pidgey usually. Yeah, and it's the same for all Zard variants, I think.
Okay, fair. And then, so you said you take 1 prize of Cram, right? After that, what's your main strategy? How are you getting through the rest of your 5 prizes? How are you getting through the big Pokemon? What are like a few of the ways that you do get through the last 5 prizes?
So yeah, it very much depends on the situation. But like, if you can get like the Zard, I mean the KO with Moon immediately on the Zard, that's fine. Usually somewhere in the game you need to be able to counter catch or something. So just hitting 110 on the Charizard at one point is also fine. And then going behind, being able to use counter catcher on either Jirachi or Pidgeot EX, depending on what your attacker is. Like if you're behind, you can use counter catcher to Gustav Jirachi if your attacker is of course Kammerman. but I'll always like targeting Pidgeot, because then you probably don't get Eoned every turn, and like you can. I think the better target for Moon is Pidgeot EX than Zard. So
Just
you
getting
get
rid of
behind
them.
by just hitting with Gram once. As for the last few prizes are usually the most difficult, right? If like they Eona you to and if you don't have any damage yet on like a Zard EX, um, you need to be I don't like there's probably no way you get your Moon. So yeah, it's not an easy matchup, but uh, if they don't have Pidgeot, that's your main goal, I think, to remove their Pidgeot from the board. That's how I want sometimes. If you can, yeah, you can use Moon twice, but it's just trading, and it's probably hard for you.
Hmm. Okay. And are you ever trying to like pre-bench anything to play around Iono? Like you benching Moon on turn 1 if you draw it to play around Iono, or anything like that, like you're cramming on turn 1. You ever benching Moon, benching Zard earlier in the game? Any strategies like that to play around Iono?
Yeah, I bench a lot of stuff pretty early in multiple matchups, but Zard specifically, if you get Moon turn 1, I think it's fine to bench it. Um, if they have like if you get the KO with Cram and they have turn 2 like boss Defiance Band KO it, um, that would suck, but I think that's pretty hard for them to do, and then you can get it back with maybe a Clara or a Super World. You always bench your Crams as well, because I think Cram is it's just very important to just have them on the board. Sableye, if they don't have Chirachi yet, it's fine to bench as well. If they do like if you can attach to Sableye, it's also fine to bench because it's basically a Cram. But you don't bench Moon if they can KO the Moon with just the boss, right? That makes it like
Yeah.
you never do that. But turn 1 it's fine.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. I think that's, unless you have anything else specific for the Charizard matchup, if you want to try and guess a percentage on what you think the matchup is, 60, 40, 60, 45, 55, what do you think?
It very much depends on the setup, but I would say like 45, maybe, yeah, 45, 55.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Next matchup we're going to talk about is Gardevoir. This is a matchup I know the best. What do you think? Opt first or second to start?
I would opt first, probably.
Okay.
It depends on if they play Chiracho, kind of.
Why?
And it doesn't, like they want to go first, I think.
Yep.
So that's why I am going first, right? And if they don't play the Jirachi, you always go first, that's for sure. Because then you can get Sableye as fast as possible. Like if you go second and you get turn 1 Cram hit, that's fine. But if you don't get turn 1 Cram hit, you just lose always. So that's probably why I would prefer going first. Because it's way easier to hit Cram hit going first, of course. And yeah, they really want to go first, I think. So it's more of like they want to go first and you want to go first,
yeah.
Right? But
yeah. So I'll just start. I mean, this is like, out of all the matchups I know, this is the matchup I know the most. So I'll talk through a little bit of strategy and then I'll ask you some questions of how you play. So basically what ends up happening like every game is the Gardevoir like usually steps, or sometimes they Candy Guardy, but usually they step, they get fully set up, they evolve some Gardevoirs, and then you're kind of in this like mid game where the Lost Zone's up a few prizes, and then the Lost Zone just has to convert like the last like 3 prizes or something with being spammed Ionos, Cresselias, Jirachis, stuff like that. So mainly, I feel like the main thing for Lost Zone in this matchup is playing around Ionos and trying to do that as effectively as possible. I think that it's also really important to play around damage placements. So I did make a situation to ask you about what you think about damage placements with against the Gardevoir matchup. Are you mostly, so essentially against Cresselia, are you mostly in a situation like this? I know it looks a bit weird, but are you trying to kill, what are you mainly trying to do? Are you trying to get Arcanas off the board, killing Curly and putting damage on Arcanas? Are you trying to put pressure on the like small Pokemon, or are you trying to kill Cresselia? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm probably killing Curlia here.
Yeah.
The rest of the damage depends on the situation. If what I'm looking at here,
there was some baby Pokemon in play that you could target. So you have either the option of damaging the Arcana or the, Ralts Mew things that you could also possibly take 2 prizes on. Or obviously damage to Cresselia as well is also possible.
Let's see. We're assuming here that the Gardevoir player doesn't play Jirachi.
Yeah, I know Rachi. Normal
Uh,
Guardi list. Rachi has kind of gone out of Guardi these days, so not playing it that much. You don't have to
really?
worry about
Oh,
it. Yeah, mostly not.
that's fair.
Most of them copying like Miltord. Not me. Boris.
That's fair. I would probably kill Curlia here. You want to remove the draw power and like you want to prevent them from evolving into Gardevoirs, which of course they basically have too much HP for Lost Box to deal with. So yeah, so you always KO Curlia, and then you're left with 3 prizes. The 4 damage always goes on a single Pokemon, of course, for Cresselia. Kind of depends on the situation here, but I feel like putting 4 on the Mew here is fine. Or yeah, the Mew. Depends on how much candy they have played, I guess. If they haven't played any candy,
Okay.
putting four on the Baby Guardi is also fine. But I probably prefer putting 4 on Mew. And like
Okay,
if
interesting.
they collapsed it, I think that's still fine.
And are you ever thinking about putting damage on? I'm interested in this as well. Do you a lot of the time put damage on Cresselia to like put 10 on Crest or 30 on Crest to put in range, or are you more scared of like to force Gardevoir EX to come up or something else like View of Cram on board or something, or are you mostly trying to like put damage on Arcana?
Basically, if I don't have a good target for the leftover damage, I think it's going on Cresselia.
Mhm.
But it's probably only good to put it on Cresselia when you just actually just KO it. Like I think if you
Okay.
just do 120 or whatever.
So, and then basically playing around in the late game, like what attackers are you trying to do? Are you ever like setting up Roaring Moon against them? Are you ever, I don't know, preventing Zard, preventing Cram? What are you trying to do in the late game against Guardi?
If you can like, I only bench Moon, for example, if I can also like Roxanne them, or if I know they have like a small hand and little to no draw power. That's what I did in my stream game against Miloslav. I Roxanne him and benched the Moon, and then I didn't have balls, so I could use my own balls to finish the game, because he was playing Jirachi, and that makes it very hard. But if they don't play Jirachi, you don't need the Moon at all, I think. You just chain your Sableyes. You can pre-bench the Zard, but if you do that, you have to be scared of how to catch her Screamtail maybe, but and like Iono. So if you do that, you kind of want to bench Manaphy as well. But if you can also pre-attach to the Charizard, it's fine benching Zard. You basically you want to pre-bench almost anything. Even though they have Avery, it's sort of fine. Just if they play Avery, it's just fine. Like they're not playing Iono, so that's good. Um, I pre-bench like almost everything usually. You don't wanna maybe lock your bench with the, like double cram or something, but or like too much confis. But if you have like uh, a board of double comfy, double comfy, Jirachi, Zard, Cram, Sableye, and you would prefer double Sableye, but you usually have you can't, right? Usually you're attacking with it and they remove it, and you might not play Clara for just a single one. But yeah, you want as much attackers on board, I think.
Okay, fair enough. And another thing, a pretty interesting thing you told me the other day, we talked about the other day, is what you discard off Avery. So like a full board, a pretty full board, comfy Rachi, Sableye, stuff like this. What are you discarding off Avery? And what part? And yeah, what are you discarding off Avery? Like Sableye Crams, full board.
Probably depends on if they have Jirachi, but I think you're discarding. You're keeping the Jirachi usually. If you have like Sableye active, because you attacked with it. Comfy, Cram, Jirachi. You're okay. You're okay if you just have like one Jirachi, 1 Comfy, and 1 attacker. And like the attacker that you have in front is probably gonna get KO'd. Because the 1 Comfy is fine if they don't KO it that turn. Which they don't unless they use Scream Tail, and Scream Tail is also like, it's always, if they use Scream Tail, that's really good for you as well. So you don't really care about that. So you're probably removing like a Cramorant from the board or a Comfy, and you want to have 2 attackers, 1 Comfy, and 1 Jirachi. Because using Cresselia on the bench is like, that's how you lose, like counter catcher, Cresselia stuff. I really like having Jirachi on the board.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty interesting. You know, targeting Jirachi. And then how good do you think the matchup is? What do you think? Jirachi versus no Jirachi?
If they're not playing Jirachi, it's pretty good, I think. Chaining Sableye is probably easier for Sable's Heart than it is for any other Lost Box deck, right? So the ability to effectively chain Sableye is very, very nice. And like, they have the big tank, right, with Gardevoir EX, but if they ever do that, you still have Moon to deal with that, which trades evenly, right? Turo is something you need to be aware of, as well as Collapsed, but I think the matchup without Jirachi is very favorable. It's just, you need to have enough time to finish 3 games. I think that's the biggest problem. Even if they're not playing Jirachi, you can still just lose 1 game, and you probably can't finish the 3rd. So you need to play pretty fast, and you need to be able to make the right decisions fast enough. And if they do play Jirachi, it's pretty hard. I don't know if you saw my game on stream against Miroslav. I would recommend watching that. I guess if you're interested in this matchup with Jirachi. Even though I was pretty ahead for most of the game there, it was really hard for me to get any of my last prizes, right? Yes, Jirachi on the board. I can't use my Sableye to KO anything that was already damaged, so there was a lot of damage on this board, but I couldn't do anything with it. So if they do play Jirachi, you need to probably like Hail Mary and use probably bench Moon at the same time. I mean, you probably need to KO a Gardevoir EX with a Moon.
Okay.
I think the matchup with Jirachi is pretty in favor.
Alright, that makes a lot of sense. Alright, next matchup, Giratina Lost Zone. So opting first or second against Giratina Lost Zone.
I would say second.
No Lost Zone.
Just hitting the cram hit. Well, they don't hit the cram hit, right? Or like they can't use a basic in their turn 1, right? And Giratina is also a pretty bricky deck sometimes, so maybe they just start 1 Comfy or like 2 Pokemon and you hit their only Comfy or something. I think you always want to go second.
And so how do you think... So obviously you're playing, in this matchup, you're playing at a pretty big advantage with Manaphy Jirachi and stuff. What do you think their strategy looks like? Do you think they're trying to go for lots of like Giratina attacks later? And obviously they're playing into Roxanne, but what do you think they're trying to do? And then we do against that. Yeah,
so they probably have at least 1 Tina on board. You have to attack with Tina at some point in the matchup if you're playing the Tina, if you're the Tina player. Because yeah, you want to hit as much cram hits as possible. But especially if you're the Lost Box player against Giratina, you need to play around Roxanne. That's probably the most important part, of course. And if you feel like you are in a good enough board state against Roxanne, you finally take like maybe a few prizes.
So before we move on with that, so you're not trying to take, you're basically going to try and stay on 4 prizes for a long time, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe you hit if they use the V-Star early, you can do Zard for 250 on them, or to like not KO them but get them close to like KO, right? So also the only moment you probably go into Roxanne is if they have their oh no, never mind. If you have Jirachi on the board, it's always fine. But I was gonna say if they have like their Sableye, but that's not a problem anymore because you usually have Jirachi. I faced one Tina with Avery, which is like kind of annoying. Because you always need to have Manaphy and Jirachi in play, basically. Yeah, you keep playing around Oxam the entire game, I think. Unless then finish, if you're able to finish the game with like 2 Sableyes, then you go into it. Matchup is
Yeah, and
pretty good.
okay, yeah, and I was gonna ask, do you ever attack with Moon? You ever like benching, I don't know, benching or trying to go into Moon to kill Giratinas? Like if you have Sableye win set up or anything, ever work?
It's fine if you like, if you know if you're in such a good position, you can use it. If you know you're guaranteed to win next turn, if they like need to boss Sableye to still be in the game, quote unquote. But usually you don't need to use it. You can use it maybe turn 2 against, if they have like only one Tina V, and you can KO it turn 2 if you get like 2-7 turn 2. But usually you don't really use it. I Lost Zone it a lot if I get it with the comfy.
Like if you have any specifics on damage where your first damages go, like I mean, are you initially putting damage on Giratina, or are you avoiding putting damage on Giratina so you can kill with Zard, or?
So probably you've already gotten like 1 or 2 prizes with Clam. Probably 2, because it takes a little bit for you to get to Sableye. So if they have 2 confis on board, it's fine to do 6-6, but actually usually they don't have those on board. It very much depends on the situation, but usually you want to avoid placing damage on the Tinas if they haven't evolved yet. And if they have evolved, then it's like fine to put like multiple damage. If you're like so much ahead, that you can put 3 on them and maybe get Zard later. That's probably good. But usually you want to put damage on the 1 prizes with Sableye.
Okay.
Even if it's Greninja, that's still fine.
Okay, makes sense. And yeah, you already said matchup's pretty favored. So the next matchup I have is very similar, but not the same. Lost Box Mirror, and especially I think, you know, the Lost Box Mirror has been around for ages, but the new thing is Iron Hand. So I think the main thing. So firstly, first second in Mirror.
Second.
Yeah, going second in Mirror, and so essentially, how are you playing? Are you playing like with Iron Hands against like an Iron Hands version of the Mirror? How does that change things? Because I think that's because obviously, okay. First question: the Sablezard Mirror, is it as boring as it sounds with Jirachi? Where
it's mega boring. you can like the only way you can quote unquote unplay them is you use Zard early, and they need to like escape rope to still get a KO, or you need to respond with their own Zard. Like it's basically the one who attacks first wins the game. There's only like, you can maybe in the late game you can do stuff like Roxanne them, attack with Zard and hope they don't have escape rope or their own Zard to kill you. And then you can maybe go ahead with 1 extra prize, but it's really boring.
Yeah, okay, fair. Okay, so the Lost Mirror with Iron Hands. What is this? What is the Iron Hands mirror like? I don't know. Are they using it later? My first thought on the matchup was they used the Iron Hands on like the last turn, but it kind of seems scary into Roxanne. How do you think it goes with Iron Hands?
I've played this matchup, I think once maybe, against Adam Hawkins. He used the Iron Hands as early as possible, I think. I think he had turn 2 hands. And then of course, hands feels pretty nice if you have a turn 2. I think what you were saying, using hands in the late game is very risky. If I have my Roxanne, it's really hard to get it off, unless you can play around it and bench it, attach maybe early without attacking it with it. But I don't think that's great either. So probably if you're the Iron Hands player, you wanna use it. Maybe if you're like still at 6 prizes, you will go down to 4. It's not easy for my deck to find a response to Iron Hands early. Of course, you want to respond with Zard, Gate, Attach, but sometimes I just don't have it. Like the hardest thing is probably going to 7. So it's probably using Iron Hands early. That's the best plan for them. And and if you're playing my deck, you want the bench Zard attached to it as early as possible. You get as many stuff into the Lost Zone. Probably, maybe you even like forego any cram hit if you can, like depending on the situation. If it costs you a lot to get the cram hit in, and you need the nest ball for a Zard response instead of the cram, then you might even just forego the cram and try and hit the Zard next turn with that nest ball.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't have. And then are you ever trying to use? I mean, yeah, you can't use Roaring Moon. That was like something I was thinking about. The Roaring Moon doesn't work. They take 3.
Not Roaring Moon does nothing, no.
Yeah.
I like probably Roaring Moon is you only use it against like the kind of fringe matchup which would normally be bad matchups without it.
Yeah. Okay. But okay, I really don't know much else on the matchup. I mean, obviously, Roxanne in that matchup. But do you think the fact that the matchup's still fine with the fact that they like don't have Rachis, or do you think it's bad with them having Iron Hands?
I think the matchup is fine. If you can respond to the Iron Hands and get your Roxanne later, you probably win the game. But the one time I played against it, he had turned to Sableye and turned to hands. So I don't know, like I don't think you win that way. But the matchup is like about 50-50, I believe. Like if you can respond to the Iron Hands and also have Jirachi on the board, or like you don't even need Jirachi on the board that turn. You can bench it after the first Sableye.
Okay.
If you need to, it's fine.
Cool. And then the next matchup I have is Mew. I think so. There's 2 different versions of Mew, obviously DTE and non-DTE. Does it change whether you go first or second into either of those variants? Are you going second against both or first against both? What do you think?
I go first for sure against Mew DTE. I'm actually not too sure about Fusion Mew. I'd probably go first against Fusion Mew as well. Then I need to do a lot of resources into getting their turn 1 attack. And if I can end my turn with not a Comfy on inactive, they can't attack with the Mew V. So it's pretty hard for them to get the turn on kill. They need to use a 1 pricer. That's probably the nicest thing about doing that. They need to use a 1 pricer to KO, and that makes your pricer mapping way easier. Because the biggest problem with my deck against Mew, for example against DTE Mew, you need to KO 2 Mew VMAXs, and you need to do that with Roaring Moon most likely. Because if you ever like do 110 on a Genesect V, they either Turo that at some point, or yeah, they Turo that, or you can't like in the late game use Zard, attach, KO the second Genesect. You almost always need to KO the 2 Mew VMAXs. And having the one pricer on board in the fusion matchup makes your price mapping just like you get the one Mew VMAX of a Moon, one pricer and 1 Genesect, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. So if you do have to kill 2 VMAXs, what's the strat? Are you going just straight into Roaring Moon and then hope you hit the second one, or are you trying to like cram into the first one, like let him Psychic Leap or anything like that? I don't know.
Just
slapping.
If they only have like the 1 Mew in play, you can cram hit the only Mew, meaning they have to attack with that. That's fine, because then you can maybe respond with a Charizard. But they can like Psychic Leap is like your worst enemy probably. A Psychic Leap lot.
Yeah.
So even if you do 110, they can maybe just Psychic Leap. So just getting your Roaring Moon as early as possible twice is probably your best shot against DTE Mew.
Okay, and then what about?
That's pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And what about a Fusion Mew that has Lost City but goes to the same strat, just Mews and Genesects?
Yeah, that's the problem I had in Stuttgart. I faced like 3 Fusion Mews, and I think all my losses were Mew, except like 1 Rapid Strike Urshifu. Yeah, if they do the same strat, you're probably in trouble. That's why I said you kind of want to force them to. You want to end the turn with not Comfy active, right? So that they can't just use the Mew to get 1 prize early. And then it's just the same thing as the DTE matchup, probably.
Fair.
Except they have, what you said, they have Lost City.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably need, it's not easy. I think like the one thing I wanted to change is probably put in Spirit Home. And before at LASC I thought the matchup was like fine, but then playing in Gdansk and in Stuttgart, playing against actually good Mew players, and not Excelgor Mew like in LASC, um, it actually became a hard matchup. So I'm considering playing Spirit Home as well.
Okay, interesting. I mean, how bad do you think it is? 70-30, 65-35, 60-40? Like for it, you know, just either. I mean, it's about the same.
Um, if they're like a really good Mew player, it's like pretty bad. Like probably either between 65-35 or 70-30.
Yeah.
But a lot of Mew players are like okay, and they will use their one prizer in the matchup, and like if they play Fusion Mew, and then it's like then the matchup is fine if they use their one prizer.
Yeah, okay, fair.
So honestly, I have only faced like one Mew player who wasn't using their one prizer. So.
Makes sense. I think that's all I have for Mew VMAX. Next matchup is Miraidon. How are we playing against Miraidon? So first or second?
Second,
Against all? Against Path as well?
Path doesn't do much against you, right? So.
Oh, well, I mean, like, not against Path, like against that version of the deck, but I think it's, in my opinion, it's a bit slower. But, I mean, it still makes sense to go second.
Oh, that's what you mean. I haven't thought much about like the different builds of Miraidon, but I think I would go second.
Okay, so, how do you deal with early Iron Hands? What's the strat? We like going as many comfies as possible? Are we, you know, crown ranting to win a prize race? What's the, in case we get Iron Hands twice, what's the strat against Iron Hands?
If you get Iron Hands twice, I think hitting with Crams, it doesn't really win you the prize trade yet, because like you go down to 4, like yeah. Don't like hitting with Cram is pretty bad if they can't get Iron Hands twice. So you want to be prepared for Iron Hands. So probably using confies, multiple confies early is your best shot. You want to get as high into the Lost Zone as possible. Get Zard also already down, and maybe attached to it as well if you can. Because you need will probably need free energy attached to it to respond. The hardest thing is probably dealing with Iron Hands with a Bravery Charm. You need to find your one vacuum or your Seal Stone for the vacuum, and if you don't hit that, you probably lose if they hands twice, unless you can like counter catcher, tall something.
Can you ever go like 250 and then vac the Charm and Zod again?
Yeah, you can. But then you still need to find your one vacuum one turn later, which is still like if you vacuum that they probably have Iron Hands active, right? And you vacuum the Bravery Charm from the Iron Hands, and then they promote the one prize. So you probably also need Counter Catcher along with the Zard KO again. For it to be fine. Which it can happen, but usually they kind of steamroll the game if they can't get 2 hands, and maybe sometimes they can even get a third hands of like a second actual hands with like either Super World or just playing 2 hands and bossing again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably you probably lose if you can't KO it directly.
Are you ever thinking about, against like, you know, a Path Judge, you ever thinking about pre-benching Zard? You could maybe get bossed on the Zard. You ever scared of getting bossed on your Charizard, or you just bench it if you have it?
I almost always bench it. If they boss it, they are not using hands. I can get it back with like Super World or Clara. I'm always pre-benching it because it's not easy to find nest balls usually.
Okay,
Or to find it again if they like judge you.
Okay, fair. And then what do you think about the matchup versus both versions?
Slightly in favored, I think. If they like get the early hands, of course. Turn 1 hands is very, very, very hard to deal with. But that, yeah. I haven't played it much, honestly. Like the players I was facing at LAFC, I don't think we're playing it that well. I would say it's like 45, 55.
Cool. All right, the next matchup I have is Entei and Valiant. So you've talked about this a little bit, but what do you think? First or second in this one?
About this one, I'm actually still not really sure about. I opted to go second twice at LAIC in top 8, but I got like the nuts. I think the nuts going first without using Squawk. So you're not really that scared of the turn 1 Techian Bits KO your only Pokemon because you play quite a bit of Pokemon. You can always bench multiple.
Yeah, it's really hard for them to get
But I
4.
think I would actually. I decided to go second in top 8, but I think I would actually go first the next time I face him.
Why?
Because I did this in Gdansk against Urshifu Valiant, which of course is different because they can't really hit you KO turn 1. But I think if your best shot in the matchup is to get Warring Moon as early as possible, right? Which is you do by going first, basically. If you go second, Cram Hit is actually pretty bad because of switch cards. So going second and like your best thing you can do going second is Cram Hit. That doesn't do much for you. So I believe that going first is probably best. And also with Pidgeot sort of helps. You can sometimes promote it.
Off rope.
Depends how much you have on bench and stuff.
Okay, cool. And what do you think? So you talked about Moon. Do you think are you ever going for early Radzard in this matchup?
Yeah, that's fine as well. If you can get early Radiant Shard, they probably respond to KO it, right? But the same for Warring Moon. So both are fine. If you can't if they don't have damage on the NTV, you need to Zard, right? So probably Zard is better there. But what they can do is not take as much prizes as early. So Radiant Shard needs a lot of energy still, which makes it hard to power up. It very much depends on the situation, I think.
Okay, fair. Do you have anything else? Probably not much else to talk about with this matchup.
This matchup just goes very fast.
Yeah.
If you don't hit stuff, yeah, bench Shirachi, I guess.
Okay.
If you can.
Bench Shirachi. Nice call. And then what do you think about the matchup? Bad? Not so bad?
I honestly haven't played it much either, this one, but I think it's meh. Like if I kind of know how to play against it now, I think so. It's slightly better, but it very much depends on how they draw instead of you, I would say. If they can get like a turn 1 loop, even though you have like Jirachi in play, like you probably lose. But I would say it's slightly in favor as well. But the moon is nice here.
Cool.
Or like the gates are probably nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next matchup, Urshifu Inteleon. So, I guess first thing comes second again.
I think I opted to go first, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then the main question I have about this matchup is: are you targeting the Remoraid's early, or not that much? You're only targeting one Remoraid. What's the idea with the Remoraid's, and then what are you attacking with if you do, or no, whatever? Or are you trying to punch their Intel?
It's not easy for you to target Remoraid, right? You know that the ninja like you used to have to KO it on the 7 in Lost Zone. So you probably would need to like boss it or something, or like if you probably can't escape rope into it. That's the problem. So I would probably you kill Octo with the Sableye late game. Like your prize mapping is a little bit like 2 prizes, 3 prizes, 1 prizer. But that probably depends on if you can hit early moons as well. You can use moon to like, if you like use moon to KO a VMAX, and it didn't have damage on it yet, they need to like have Alakazam to still Yoga Loop it, which is like, of course they will probably hit, but it could take them a little bit more. They can't like escape rope or stuff, and they have to bench Alakazam, which means you have a counter catcher option for maybe later. But Moon is pretty strong here. I won 1 game. Actually, I played 2 games in Stuttgart. They were actually all pretty close. It was just hitting like 220 on something with Moon. They can't really respond to the Moon at all. Like they can do 150 or like. So you probably don't like use the frenzied gouging before you take any damage. Right? That's one mistake I made, I think, in my first match day 2, is that I used frenzied gouging immediately when I could have counter catchered KO the 2 prizer. And then maybe later used frenzied gouging. So yeah, you don't really target Octillery, I think, unless you can like escape rope into it as well.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And just kill it later for final prize or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like they don't have anything else on the board you can take for last prize usually. So
yeah,
Alakazam is too much SP, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then what do you think about this matchup? You think it's fine now with the Roaring Moon, or?
It's a very fun matchup to play, that's for sure. But it's just like a puzzle kind of. I would say it's like fine. If they hit the nuts, they hit the nuts with like double gunner stuff, and if you don't have the Jirachi, but I think the matchup is fine. Like the reason I lost in the first round is because I priced Manaphy. Because the problem is you can price a lot of stuff. You can price your Jirachi, Manaphy, or Moon, and you'll probably have a hard time if either of those are priced. But there's not much I can say in this matchup. I think it's every game is pretty different. And it's kind of a puzzle, like when to use your switch cards, when you can afford to play around Aono or not, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Are you usually using switch cards early just to heal any 20 damage to avoid loop, or are you using them mostly later?
You can the game doesn't take that much turn, so it's probably using them early, which is best. If you have them and you can use them, it's probably best to use them on like if a crucial target, right? If you're healing like a Manaphy with it.
Okay.
But the thing is, you most likely have Jirachi in play, which is why they usually can't loop until later in the game. So there is a reason to keep switch cards, but you usually use turn.
Okay. Okay, fair. Alright, next matchup I have is Blocklax. So you talk about we're using Moon in this matchup already. So I think that's a strat for this. Just what do you think? Going, lone, like you start comfy, just going Moon, nothing else? Or do you bench out?
Yeah. It's probably just Moon, nothing. Moon and comfy, if you can. There's a fair chance that you start with something else. It's probably usually sucks like Sableye, Manaphy. Jirachi is actually sort of fine because you can find your energy for your Moon. Because that's sometimes a problem. The thing is that new Snorlax lists are adapting with like Luxray and Pidgeot and Lost City, which makes going Lone Moon kind of worse. Because they can just KO you at some point, Lost City, and you remove your Moon from play. But if it's like the standard Blocklax list, you always just go Moon, attach, basically just pass until you can attack with it. And if you can use Comfy, you of course will use Comfy, but there's a lot of times you don't use the Comfy. Important cards are like Stadiums, Energies. You sometimes even KO yourself with Frenzied Gouging the second that time because you don't have any Stadiums.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Do you ever just punch for 100 because you're scared of getting an Iron Node after you kill your own moon, and then like Misfortunes, this is all your stuff, or is it generally fine? Just kill it.
It depends on if you have the example of like Claras in hand or in deck. If they are in deck and like you maybe get Ioned into them, then it's probably fine. But just punching 100 is also okay.
Okay.
Because for them to use Penny, it doesn't help them anything basically. And like it depends also on how many switch cards you still have. If you're allowed to do like 100 at some point, or if you need to like KO them to still win the game. Because a lot of the times, you probably need to KO them to still be able to win the game. So
you're running on switch cards. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And
so sometimes you can't really play around Eon.
And then against the Luxray stuff, you have any tips or strategies for that? What to keep in hand, what not to?
Yeah, you need to not Lost Zone Radiant Zard, because they can just KO your stuff at some point if they have the fidgets in the Zard. They can just KO your moon, and then you basically don't have a good attacker left in the matchup, right? You only have Grammar and the Sableye. So you need to also keep your Charizard in that matchup. Basically, don't be afraid to go as aggressive as well. Maybe using a switch card to get another Comfy to get closer to Mirage Gate is fine, because otherwise the switch cards will maybe get removed by Luxray. So don't be that afraid to go aggressive if they play the Luxray, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then for a normal ball collector list, what do you think of matchup?
Like pretty good. Like 75, 25.
Okay, fair. Perfect. Alright.
I think I won all of them and tied one with Luxray.
Okay, fair. And the last three matchups, these decks are not very good, but we're gonna go through them, run through them anyways. Moon, do you have anything interesting to talk about this matchup other than just attack with Cram and bench Manaphy?
Yeah, just attack with one price. Get as much Pokemon on the board as possible. Like, that's probably the biggest issue. You want to get all the Comfys and the Manaphy's on board. Like, there's not much to explain here.
Yeah, and do you go second or first?
I think you'll probably go second.
Okay.
Because that makes you able to probably find the most Pokemon, right?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Chien Pao?
You should always win it. Chien Pao.
Yeah, you're going straight to Chien Pao.
It doesn't change much compared from last format.
Yeah, the Iron Hands is the only real change.
Iron Hands. Zard is really good because it trades well with both Iron Hands and Chien Pao. Moon is pretty bad. The fact that they are not playing Cologne Crossfisher most likely is like very, very advantageous for you. So I think the matchup is pretty good.
And just, I guess, preparing for Iron Hands like the Miraidon matchup, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like Chien Pao does it later, right? Well,
yeah.
Probably.
Most likely, yeah. They miss it for a turn. Do it later. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there isn't really much else to talk about this matchup. Alright, and then the last matchup, we got Klawf here. We're actually having an interesting discussion about Klawf. The Klawf matchup earlier. What do you think?
Yeah, so since they poison or like burn themselves, you can just cram hit it unless they play like the Bravery Charm. Then you need to find your one vacuum. But it's probably a favorite. Like they have to bench um, probably a one pricer at some point, which you can either counter catcher because you're behind, or uh, yeah, you'll probably be able to take two prizes at some point, since they also only have 4 Klawf, right? That's their only attacker. That is a one pricer.
4 DT as well. They only have 4 energies.
They need to fight a lot more than you every turn.
Mhm.
So and you can also like Sableye or Bibarel if they don't play Jirachi, and like Roxanne, and then they need to find stuff maybe.
Yeah, you can do the strat
I
I'm doing
haven't
as
played
guy.
the matchup. What?
You can do the strat I do every game as guy. You counter capture the Brute on it, kill the barrel, and get rid of their vacuum, and they just fall over.
Yeah, if you can, yeah, that probably just wins you the game.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to trade well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I don't think I have much else for this. I think we're done here. Thanks so much, Brennan, for coming on to talk about Sablezard with us. I really appreciate it. And
No worries. I hope I explained everything okay. But
yeah, it was great. Thank you.